But we did get Bryan Danielson versus Christopher Daniels out of it. And it was good to see Daniels again, especially they said he hadn't been on the TV show in 7 months, but we have seen Pockets and 2.0 weekly, multiple times. But we see Chris Daniels once every 7 months.
Did you see that eye?
Yeah, it didn't look. What did they say? What happened?
I could be wrong because I wasn't completely listening by this point. I think they said it was a Young Bucks super kick, or maybe it was an angle with the Young Bucks or something. But I may be wrong, but I think that's what I heard.
Well, I'm not surprised then. But nevertheless, Daniels and Danielson, 2 pros, great match. I just sat and enjoyed it. I'm not going to pick it apart because they both are incredible and they know what they're doing. And then Daniels went for the best moonsault ever, and Danielson caught him in an armbar, and he tapped out. But they actually got a chance to go out. And these two should be running or at least figured into any type of training program or tryout system, seminars, developmental, whatever that AEW has. But I'm sure that probably won't take place either. And then Danielson is what a heel. Goes right back to the promo talking about Ring of Honor, and we always used to shake hands, so I'm going to shake hands. And there's Daniels laying there unconscious, and he reaches down and grabs his fucking hand and shakes the limp arm, and then says, and now I'm going to stomp his head in, and stomps his head in. And they get Daniels out of there, and he promos Moxley. He's going to stomp his head in on Sunday. And then Moxley music plays, and here he came. It would have been nice if he'd have come out 30 seconds earlier to help Chris Daniels instead of being a prima donna and have to wait for his music to play so he can come in out of the parking lot. Are you as tired of Moxley's promos as I am of his matches?
You could have said anything. Am I tired of his entrance, his promos? His promos is like a thing he always does. And it's kind of funny, but you get tired of it where he's talking and he's trying to act tough and he kind of has like the shoulders going and everything. He's moving around.
Wobbling and twitching.
And I've had enough of you, so you know what? I'm just going to kill you.
Yeah.
What? I've had enough of you, so I'm going to beat you, and you know what? There'll be a river of blood. Really? So I don't know. There's always that. It's always like, okay,
well, no. It's starting to be a river of blood. The last chapter is about to be written, and he's going to write a book in blood on Sunday.
That's what it was.
I'm not sure he can read a book.
No, he's
going to write one in blood. And it's coming from this guy who wobbles and twitches like a fucking spastic. And you can't. Yes, I'm sure that John Moxley has been in some bad neighborhoods and he grew up on the streets of Florence, Kentucky or whatever the fuck, right next to the gambling den. And those crazy kids were shooting craps or whatever the fuck. Yeah, he might be a tough guy. I'm sure his picture could be seen on Cincinnati's Most Wanted or whatever, but visually, as far as in the professional wrestling world, no, he's not a big, badass looking, mean, intimidating son of a bitch. His promos would lead you in that direction until you see the matches, and they're all indie garbage matches with all the indie cliches, the old indie tropes. And they don't make any sense, and you don't believe them because they don't make sense. They're two guys engaging in an exhibition of hitting each other with blunt instruments instead of an actual fight that you can lose yourself in. And that's what his mindset is. And he's the bank-addicted drug robber is his hero. And he loves that kind of shit. And I would love it for him if he was released from his AEW contract and allowed to go to garbage championship wrestling and do that kind of shit. Because then we wouldn't have to watch him.
With all that said, I was just going to say Danielson here was great. Especially the post-match. The match was the best Christopher Daniels match in AEW. No surprise because he's working with the best wrestler in the business right now. And Danielson is perfect in the ring right now, but it's the post-match stuff, it's the out-of-the-ring stuff where he's really excelling, playing off the crowd, and the post-match stuff with him kicking in Daniel's head was great.
Yeah, and then
the setup to it.
And then when Moxley says, okay, we can go right now, and Danielson whips his jacket off and squares up and then powders right out. You know, what a heel. Danielson can get something out of anybody. So even with Moxley, yes, but just, did you notice that Sting and Darby Allen, when they're talking about Rampage on Friday, have the same energy level for Rampage that all of us do, and that they weren't... I swear to God, I wrote Buddy Landell had more emotion on Somas than either guy here in this pre-tape about what they're going to do on Friday. Darby Allen's just in a trance.
You know, with Darby, you have a guy who, since the beginning of AEW, has always gotten a big pop when his music hits, and he comes out, he has a unique way of coming out, whether it's a match or whether it's him doing a run-in with his skateboard. He's had good matches. I feel like we're not seeing him featured enough on Dynamite anymore, considering how good and how over he is.
I think, see, here's the problem is Tony Khan puts so much thought into this that it looks like there's actually no thought put in it whatsoever, because he's overthought it to the point where it's fucking chaos. And I believe he's trying to switch talent from back and forth from one show to another where, well, they're being used on Rampage, and over here I'm using someone else on Dynamite, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like when marks with no guidance try to imitate what they've seen on television and be pretend bookers, and they come up with shit that they invent for themselves, and it logically makes sense in their heads, and there's never anyone with experience to tell them, no, and here's why, and then they might understand it. So they keep on having this. It's like the indie wrestlers. When they're all great and everybody's great and everybody can play and everybody can participate. And wow, I really love it what you're doing with your character and you're fleshing out your image or whatever the fuck this showbiz bullshit is. There's nobody to tell them, no, you suck. Here's why. Here's what to do about it. Because nobody wants to get their feelings hurt. And then they just go off and do their own shit. And I mean, yes, you're going to see a lot of and hear a lot of veteran wrestlers that you can point to. Well, so-and-so favors this, and so-and-so doesn't have a problem with this, and so-and-so pats such and such on the back about this. That's because they're still in the business. They still want booked. And the veterans go home and laugh at these fucking assholes. They go get their payoff, and except if they can not avoid it any other way, they don't do anything that'll get any stupid on them or hurt them or injure them. And they laugh at these idiots that are out there cutting their own fucking heads off with chainsaws. And publicly they praise them because they want another fucking booking. And they don't care enough about the wrestling business to want to try to change it when there's idiots out there doing stupid shit. They just want paid. That's why veterans will agree with this shit publicly. You ought to hear them in the car afterwards. But anyway, that's the problem, is that he'll just say, well, I'll put so-and-so over on Rampage for a few months. And then meanwhile, Dynamite will be doing, it's two different shows that have 3 or 4 different logic universes in them, because as we've mentioned, everybody that has any pull gets to set up their own segments, which is why they don't look like they go together with the rest of the show. We're getting there. We're going to get to the best thing I've seen in a long time, but we've still got some muck to wade through. You know what we had last week on the program, Brian?
Muck to wade through? Oh.
Well, no, we did, but we had a tag team battle royal. And this is where it was a 10-team, 20-man battle royal. Everybody was just standing there on the floor, jumped in the ring, and went to fighting and fussing. And the winner was going to get to challenge Jungle Boy and Dino Douche for the tag team title on the pay-per-view. Well, this week, we get another tag team battle royal. This time with even more teams and more people, but they came in one team at a time. Did I mention Mark booking, where you sit in your basement and you come up with an idea that, boy, this is just great, and nobody's there to tell you you're stupid, and so you do it? 2 20-man battle royals 2 weeks in a row with both winners of 2 different kinds of rules battle royal, with both winners going on to fight the tag team champions in a 3-way triple threat tag team match. This is Mark booking. The people that really want to pay close attention to this shit, they're going to love it. And everybody else is going to go, what the fuck is going on here? But at least we got entrances and introductions in this one, so we knew who they were. And Darius Martin, poor old Dante's brother, is back after injury, so Top Flight, we're out first with FTR. And since it's a battle royal, the faces did 1,000 things at 100 miles an hour for a minute, and then here came the Acclaimed. And the Acclaimed came out doing their rap, but the match was continuing because even though everybody was supposed to be knocked down and 4 guys just laying there while this rap happens, they still hadn't done all the shit they were supposed to do. So there's Dante doing the missile dropkick off the top rope while Max Caster is doing his rap. Then everybody lays down so he can finish the rap. One of Caster's lines was, somebody's less popular than Glenn Jacobs' tweets. Finally, he's good. But again, this is not the place for it. There's 2 teams beating the shit out of each other in the ring. Your team gets to come out. Why are you even allowed to, much less why do you want to rap for a minute before you get in the ring and start the match? Oh, it killed the fucking momentum of the match, what they had going. And it's stupid that these people would be allowed to hang out and fucking be on the microphone when they're supposed to be getting in the ring. But finally, they restarted the match, and then here came the Dork Order, and I said, okay, I'm going to start skipping ahead here because the participants in this match, after Dork Order, were Bear Country with their manager, Gerbil County, I guess, Butcher and Baker, Santana and Ortiz. I saw Garrison. I didn't see Pillman in there. He might not have lasted too long. Was he in there?
Yeah, he ran out. You saw him run out.
Okay, Trent and Muffin Top. More Dorks, another team from the Dorks. The Hardley Boys, the Ass Boys, Brock Anderson and Shoddy Lee, Ryan Nemeth and some skinny fucking blue tights.
Oh, can I jump in?
Yes.
1, I want to just say you were right. The Ass Boys may have something. 2, I want to say the skinny guy in the blue tights was Peter Avalon.
Jesus Christ. It looked like some fucking homeless guy trying to break into the public swimming pool for a swim, got mixed up and headed into the wrestling locker room. And that was the teams in this. So basically it came down to, I know you're going to be shocked here, but it came down to the Hardley Boys eliminating FTR, of course, pony time. And that left the Hardley Boys against Darius Martin all by himself. And at that point, they launched themselves into some of the most ridiculous, phoniest, trampoline routine exchanges and the most worst, most unbelievable, quote unquote, work that I've ever seen on a Major League Wrestling television program. Until I know you're going to find this hard to believe, the Hardley Boys won. That pony's been changing hands a lot lately.
It's their tag team division.
Did you see? It was just ridiculous. It was like hip, 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 just helping each other vault and cheerlead. And this was it. So now we're going to end up with the Hardley Boys against Fish and O'Reilly against Jungle Boy and Dino Douche in a 3-team triple threat match for the tag team title that very well could be completely unwatchable.
Can I make a request?
Please.
Tony, keep running Ring of Honor and send FTR there. Because
yes,
we see what life is like in the Young Bucks tag team division. They want to work with their friends. They want to book their friends strongly, and everyone else gets screwed over. Hey, now you got another company. Send FTR to Ring of Honor, and then we get FTR Briscoes.
There you go. And now, by the way, not only are the fans trying to demand it and starting petitions for it on Twitter and on the internet, but now I think it was Dave Scherer of PW Insider actually called for it in an editorial on the site today. But now there's nothing standing in your way now, Tony. The public is actually, it sounds like a fucking bad promotional line. By popular demand, the public is demanding a match that is easily available to Tony Khan, and he won't give it to him because his fucking two little Fruit Loops from Cucamonga would rather play with the rest of their trampoline cowboy. You know, the kids don't know. They know the phrase, but they don't know where it came from. You've heard it, drugstore cowboy, right?
Of course.
Somebody even called Adam Page a drugstore cowboy. And where that comes from is when I was a kid, when a lot of people were kids, out in front of the drugstore, they had the fucking coin-operated horse. For the kids, while your mother was in there shopping, picking up whatever, I used to ride mine outside of Wish's drugstore in Middletown, Kentucky. You'd put I think it was a dime by the time I got there, but I've seen some of them that were a nickel. And it was like a horse that you have on the merry-go-round, but it's on this base and it's got a pole on it. And your parents put you up on the horse and you put the coin in and the horse starts bobbing along a little bit, not like the bull at Gillies. Don't want to hurt any of the little kitties. But you had your little cowboy hat and your little cap gun 6-shooter and you rode the horse and you were a drugstore cowboy. Well, all of the young bucks and their fucking little friends are trampoline cowboys. They like to play on the trampoline and pretend they were wrestlers. And now, because one guy with enough money is delusional, they don't have to put the dime in anymore and ride on the little toy. They get to actually be on a real program and bring their friends in too. And all they've got to do is make sure that none of the real talented tag team wrestlers get a chance to show what they can do to make their trampoline cowboys look bad.
Who are you to judge the Bucks? They're the greatest tag team ever. You know it, you're out of touch. They do more in 12 days than you guys did in 300.
You know, that used to be the tagline on the Army commercial. We do more before breakfast than most people do all day. That backfired with me. I said, I don't really like to be that active before breakfast.
I'm serious. How many matches do they work a year? I said 12. I'm half joking. Do they work 24 matches a year?
I wouldn't imagine. They don't run house shows. They don't work independents anymore because they're bilking the fucking billionaire. So they pop up just to beat all the competent teams and keep them down. Anyway, that battle royal took a half an hour, folks. About as long as I took to talk about it. Let's move on. Did you see the Chris Jericho promo? And boy, he ought to trademark the carb counter because he really has dropped some weight. He's looking better. Possibly it's just he's worried up late at night, biting his fingernails about staying over, and that's what's causing him to lose weight.
Lipo.
You think?
Oh, well, you never know.
Did he have the lipo sucked?
You know, it's the neck that makes me wonder because, you know, having all the lard around your midsection, that's one thing, and you can lose that. Work hard, you can lose that. But when you have the buildup of lard around the neck that he had for a few years, that isn't so easy to lose, but he's done it. So, by hook or by crook, congratulations, Chris Jericho.
Congratulations. You're going to look better than ever, just in time for the next insurrection at the Capitol.
Yeah, just in time for him to negotiate a new deal with Vince. That's what it is. All of a sudden, Jericho's getting into shape. He's looking for a new contract with Vince. You know it.
Well, it has been mentioned that, you know, he's been there for the 3 years now or whatever, so it's going to be coming up soon. Also, Jericho has filed another trademark. The trademarker, Chris Jericho, the influencer Chris Jericho, has now filed to trademark to trademark sports entertainer. He is going to try to trademark sports entertainer. Vince might be upset about that.
Yeah, Vince may be upset about that. Or maybe that's why he's doing it, so he gets a phone call from Vince. But it is, I have to say, to be fair, the last couple of weeks, Jericho hasn't just looked a little better. His material's been a little better. If the idea is using what has been one of the big negatives to me and to a lot of fans about Jericho, which is that he's, in a lot of ways, seems like he never left Monday Night Raw mentally. If you're going to use that, and make him the sports entertainer as a heel character, that could be interesting.
Well, and that's what he's obviously about to turn heel. This was a promo about Eddie Kingston, and he's doing these subtle things, and sometimes not so subtle, that you would do if you were turning heel. And Santana and Ortiz come in and they give him a fist bump. He says, "Are we okay? I've always got your backs." They don't seem too convinced, but his demeanor, the things he's saying, the way he's talking about Eddie Kingston, he's going to turn heel, and then he's going to be the sports entertainer that all of the AEW audience who supposedly likes wrestling, just what they think wrestling is, not what it actually is. The AEW fans love what they think pro wrestling is. They just don't know what the fuck pro wrestling is. He's going to be the sports entertainer that they don't like because it's not wrestling, even though their wrestling isn't wrestling. So they're trying to figure out a way to work with an ever decreasing pool of viewers to play them against each other. And that's what we had here. So we'll see what happens with him and Kingston. But here it came. Thank God. Even if there is a God, thank God for this. I had seen so much rotten wrestling from all these companies. I was about to give up, and it was redeemed in one segment. Like Mussolini! Being serious. He came out with a game face, a no-nonsense entrance. After MJF's promo last week, the question on CM Punk's mind was, am I the bad guy? Now, I'm going to pick at one thing here at the start, and then I'm not going to pick about anything else about this because it was fabulous. But we had to sit through 30 minutes of that goddamn stinky battle royal. They couldn't have taken 2 minutes off of that and done a package to refresh the comments that Maxwell Jacob Friedman made the previous week. For anybody that missed it, or anybody that just might need a little reinforcement, not the whole segment, just the pithy parts. They used to throw quarters at me. I believed in you. You left me. That type of thing. They could have done that and then brought Punk out, but again, inexperienced television formatters. So Punk says, until a week ago, I was sure that MJF was the bad guy. But what MJF did took courage. I didn't think he had it in him. But am I being gaslit? And he looked Punk. He looks at the camera. There's close-ups. You see sincerity, the eyes. This is not prearranged material given to him by someone you can believe he is saying this. It's a talent. The delivery of that. It's called being a good television personality. He believes what he's saying, and he makes you believe it too. And he said, I believe those things happened to MJF, but I'm not sure about his sincerity. There's a picture of me with Steve Austin. But when Stone Cold Steve Austin went home, it didn't make me do bad things. But MJF attacked Dean Malenko, who has Parkinson's disease, verbally buried Brian Pillman Sr. in his hometown in front of his son and family, said awful things about Darby Allen's dead uncle. And Punk says, I've found out one thing is true. Hurt people hurt people. That's fucking brilliant. All these idiots that and this fucking House of the Knights of the Thrones of the Black fucking whatevers trying to be all spooky and deep and mysterious. They get overly dramatic and gaga and you don't believe any shit and it's just written down stuff people are saying. But when you get a guy that can tell a story like this and then just break it down to hurt people hurt people. That's the motivation. That's the supervillain's backstory. That's what happened to Mr. Glass in Unbreakable. Blah, blah, blah. This guy was hurt, so now he wants to hurt other people. Am I Dr. Frankenstein and he's the monster? So he calls MJF out. He said, I want to talk to you. But then he stopped talking and then he started pacing. And he paced on live television for a kind of an uncomfortable length of time, and there was no music. Because if it wasn't set up and everybody wasn't waiting for their cue, it would take MJF a while to get up from the monitor where he's listening to his fucking adversary and come out there to confront him. And they gave it enough time where it wasn't just next scene. And here comes MJF, no microphone, no music. And Punk says, I used to be you. I used to be full of hate. I poured alcohol down an alcoholic's throat, et cetera, all the things he done. But too much hate will burn you up. And now it's not about you or me. It's about an 11-year-old kid out there looking up to you like you looked up to me. And what effect are you going to have on him? And Punk ends up finished up. He says, am I the good guy? I sure am trying. And sticks his hand out to MJF. And there's the look and there's the pause and the milk. And MJF comes in with the hug. And Punk's face, and he won't hug him. He's like he's got his arms spread out there and looking like this fucking guy. What? And then finally, just long enough, he's okay, I'll go for it. And he gives him the hug and he pats him on the head. And MJF backs up with that lip quivering and kicks Punk square in the fucking nuts. And he drops like a rock. That was brilliant on everybody's part. The timing and the delivery and the whole 9 yards. Then MJF gets on Punk and gives him that heat seeker pile driver, and that got a pop. And he pulls off the jacket, and there's the picture of him and Punk on his T-shirt. Here comes Wardlow and Spears. And MJF gets the diamond ring and nails Punk. By the way, did you hear as soon as he nails him, what was happening, Brian?
What do you mean?
What was happening as soon as he nailed him with that ring? The bell started ringing. Stop this. Ding, ding, ding. And then Punk comes up bleeding. FTR comes out. Here comes security. Security's running out and trying to stop it. They are attacking the biggest star in our company. We've got to do something. And the bell's ringing again. Ding, ding, ding. And FTR is knocking off security, blocking them off. Again, I will give a little bit of a tip. When you're sending the security or the minions to it's always better if they get to the ring, but not necessarily in it. Instead of stopping them at the entranceway, it creates a better picture of chaos around the ring if FTR and the other heels get right in the ring and are at the ropes, and as people try to come into and down to the ring, they're playing King of the Hill, knocking them off the apron, won't let them get in. It's easier to see all the action at one point at that time. I'm picking at nits here, but this was so good. A little fine-tuning. Then they get the dog collar. And they're hanging Punk with the dog collar, and he's drenched in blood, and they're ringing the bell, and security has been dispatched, and the heels are in charge. Here was some fucking chaos. And then MJF gets the microphone right in his face, and Punk can't see, and he's bleeding, and his eyes are bugged out, and he's coughing or whatever the fuck. You stupid old man. The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing people he didn't exist. I'm the devil. Which I think, was that an old Punk promo from somewhere?
Oh, maybe, and I don't know. That would be an interesting
I think
callback.
It was.
Yeah.
Anyway, so at that point, they now string him up, and they start pulling the chain, and they're hanging Punk. And goddamn it, they should have widened back up. He's twisting on the apron, but if they could have got a wide shot, where there's a way you can do this without killing the man, where his feet could have been off the ground while he's hanging from the chain. That would have been great. But otherwise, here comes Darby Allen, Sammy Guevara, and Sting, the top baby faces. They hit the ring and make a save, and the heels powder, and the save got a big pop. When's the last time you heard a save get a pop? If they do one, it always happens after everything's over with, and they haven't built up the chaos, the urgency, the jeopardy. As soon as people saw Darby and the gang, yay! Now, as good as this was, just imagine for a second if you didn't see blood on TV all the time with AEW. If you didn't see angle after angle in every segment all the time with every company. If this was not only perfectly done like it was here, but unusual and didn't happen multiple times in a segment where there's just these ridiculously long beatdowns and heat segments and etc. just over and over. Imagine what kind of impact this would have had, and then realize that's the kind of impact that Angles had before we got to this point where everything has been so overdone. That's why people in the crowd would lose themselves and try to get over the rail to help. That's why tickets would be sold for the event, or pay-per-views would be bought for the event that this issue is going to culminate in, because it would register with people because they didn't see it all the time. And it was not only well done, but unusual. We have to imagine that now because we don't live in that world anymore. That's why most of the time, even these things, even the ones that are well done, they don't work because it's not different. But this was the best segment, again, of the entire week of any wrestling promotion. Your thoughts?
This has been the best feud in professional wrestling since it began. And whenever people hear us criticize some of the wrestling they may like, some of the younger stuff, some of the high-flying stuff, and they'll say, well, it just seems like you guys don't like anything. Wrestling's moved on from what you like. You just have to accept it. I point to something like this. This is exactly what I think wrestling should be now. And we're about to go to a pay-per-view, and I'm excited to see this match. They've built it up. There's meaning behind it. It's not a throwaway match. Every single thing they've done on TV has meant something and continued the build. This is the best feud in wrestling. This is the smartest feud in wrestling. This is an example, and I've said it a while back when it came to things when AEW does it right, and it's modern-day Mid-South wrestling like this.
Yeah.
It pisses me off more when I see some of the other stuff on the show. Because this is exactly the tone of what the competitor to WWE should have.
Yes. Not phony, not showbiz,
right.
Not predetermined, prearranged, not fixed, not a performance. That is because the WWE has that all locked up, and apparently a lot of people don't want to see that. Not like they ever did. It's just more apparent than ever before now. And this could be, as you said, modern-day Mid-South wrestling, a violent alternative. It doesn't always have to be violence. And I just said don't overdo it. Somebody's going to say, well, you can't do that all the time. You just said that. No, use this tone. Use this execution. Everything is logical. Everything's believable. The people that say things, what they say, they appear to mean. The matches appear to be important. They don't appear to be cooperating with each other and winking at their friends while they have fun doing cool moves.
Hey, do you remember how MJF turned on Cody?
Goddamn, it's been a long time, but basically, Cody had taken MJF as his protege, even though he was a heel. Cody saw something in him, and everybody else was trying to warn him, but too late. MJF's true colors came out along those lines, something of that nature.
He threw in the towel, cost him the match with Jericho, which meant he could never get a AEW World Title match again, but he got in the ring. They embraced him and the Hurt Cody, and then he gave Cody a shot to the nuts. So I like that. It's right, a throwback to his last betrayal, and I think that's brilliant too.
Ain't that a kick in the nuts? There you go. That's MJF's thing.
This is the best feud in the history of AEW, and when it comes to this pay-per-view, you have a world title match, you have the three-way tag team title match. Make no mistake, this is the main event of that pay-per-view. This is the one match I can't wait to see.
Well, we're going to get to their world title match in a minute and the lack of promotion or interest or anything in it. But yeah, I can see people, especially the ex-WWE fans in the audience, want to see Moxley against Danielson. But, I mean, has there ever been a major world title match in a major company on pay-per-view that has any less interest than this one? And the tag team title match is just the interchangeable trampoline cowboy match that they always have. It's not going to be anything different, not appreciably better or worse, depending on whether you like that kind of thing, as all the other matches they do, because it'll be the same thing. So, yeah, Punk and MJF, they ought to have points in this pay-per-view, because if it does well, it's almost all them.
Yeah, and, there goes to my discussion before about the tone. Take personal feelings and everything aside. Just look at it objectively. The stuff with the Bucks and Red Dragon and the Bucks and Cole, which ties into Cole and Page. Look at that tone versus the tone of everything with Punk and MJF. Everything is serious. Everything at times is evil. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it feels like one thing, and then on the other side, it's a bunch of guys just playing. I mean, that's really what it seems like. When, hey, Brandon, turn on the camera. Okay, so we're going back into the comedy portion of the show, where they're going to do a bunch of comedy routines that suck. That's the problem. Like I said, send half the people to Ring of Honor. Now that you have that option, that's like Australia. Send everyone to Ring of Honor right now. And just make one of the promotions the serious tone that wrestling needs. This angle, this feud, and I'm sure this match coming up are exactly what wrestling can be right now.
Well, speaking of what wrestling can be right now, it took 1 week for them to pretty much neutralize everything. 2 weeks now. Neutralize everything that Keith Lee did in that debut. In that match he had where he got over like $1 million, doing everything he should do. And then the following week, they had him do a pre-taped interview in the back where the heels came out and shut him up and he got no comeback. Well, this week, there's Tony Schiavone with Keith Lee again. He's interrupted again before he says a word this time by Starks and Hobbs, and he doesn't like it. And he comes out and says that he's not happy with being interrupted all the time. And they tell him, don't be at Rampage. You don't want to mess with us. We're going to fucking do whatever the fuck. And they walk off. And Keith Lee's last line was, and I will be there. Like he was doing Shakespeare in the Park. And there has been I'm trying to think what website it was on, but it was a quote from an interview with Keith Lee that he's just done here where he admitted that the WWE didn't like his voice or his way of speaking. And he said, I don't know what it was, maybe my tonal quality or something. No, somebody had to tell you, you big jug-headed bastard. Somebody had to flat out tell you, you sound like goddamn Fraser Crane. I expect any moment, Niles, please tell Daphne that Dad's dog has died. Yes, we've been saying that since I've seen him and heard him. He looks great. He can move around. He's got the ability to be a big star in the wrestling business, and he sounds like a college professor. And if he could do something about that, he should be a big star. Apparently, they were telling him that. Now we know probably one of the reasons why he got released. They were telling him that, and he wasn't listening to them. He wasn't trying to change it because he won't even now admit that he knows what the problem was. If you can't, even if it's yourself, I know a lot of people can't admit things about themselves. I don't think I have necessarily the most mellifluous voice in the world, Brian.
No, you certainly don't.
I didn't say you needed to agree with me.
I'm sorry.
But when I watch a video of myself, I would be able to say, well, you know what? I don't sound at all like I look. In Keith Lee's part, he looks like the Hulk and sounds like Fraser Crane. And they obviously wanted him to do something about that, and he obviously thought that he knew better. And so he didn't, and now he's at another place where he's going to be, and they probably won't tell him, hey, goofball, get some bass in your voice and sound like you mean you're going to kick somebody's ass, not like you're, fucking auditioning for the actor's studio. So apparently that's what we've got with him. So now we kind of have further ideas on why he didn't get any farther with all the obvious talent he's got. And then, Brian, remember I said I apologized to the AEW women's roster after I saw Lash LaRue and what's her face on the other program?
Yes.
I take the apology back, and I couldn't believe it. Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter against Mercedes Martinez and Thunder Rosa. I'm like, okay, we liked Rosa, we like Mercedes, and Britt Baker ain't bad. I'll start this and see what happens. But they didn't have a match. They did a 4-way jump start and a phony fight on the ramp. And then they got in the ring, and Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker, and I would have, if you'd have said pick out 2 of the 3 best female wrestlers in AEW, it's not named Serena Deeb, I would have said Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker. They got in the ring and got lost and stood there and threw fake punches at each other's outer biceps while they were discussing something. Then they went into a drop behind spot, but Thunder Rosa was going to run the wrong way into the ropes for the cutoff where Jamie Hayter was going to come from behind. So Britt had to kind of grab her by the waist and turn her 90 degrees to the right and shove her off to the ropes so she'd hit that way so Britt could drop down and Jamie Hayter could. And I said, fuck it. Everybody is rushing. This is falling apart already. And I rushed to the remote. Did I miss anything?
No.
Okay. Did you see Jane Cargill, Mark Sterling, Officer Barb Brady, Ty Conti, and whoever the other girl is that hangs around with Ty Conti in the back?
Anna Jay.
Anna Jay. Fake verbiage acted badly. And is it the Anna Jay girl or the Ty Conti girl that keeps coming in the ring for saves with a chair, and instead of running and swinging the chair, she just walks over carrying the chair like she's hopping in on a quilting bee, or every time that somebody says something, she just stands there with a blank look on her face? Which one is that?
I'm not sure, actually.
I don't know. But anyway, Sterling is horrible because he's so fake and he comes off so phony that he can't get any heat because you just laugh at it. And the other 2 girls are just lost. They're lost balls in high weeds screaming, "Find me!" And none of them can act. And Barb Brady had more emotion here than one of the girls. Anyway, Wardlow wrestled Cesar Romero and powerbombed him and beat him. And here's the thing. It's great that Wardlow had a win on television. That's a good thing. But why weren't Wardlow and Spears arrested for the attack that they perpetrated earlier if they didn't leave the arena before that happened?
I don't know.
It seems like maybe you could have got Wardlow and Caesar for their 90 seconds in before that other assault. It might have made, but anyway. There was the pre-taped interview in the dark room, possibly a dark cavern with coked up gerbils running around. I don't know. The lights are out. I can't see. But it was the Knights of the Kings of the Black House of Malachi. And now there's 3 of them. And Malachi starts talking, and then one steps into the light, finishing his sentence, and then the other one steps in the light, finishing his sentence. I have questions. What is their deal? To quote Tracy Smothers, what's your deal? What's your deal? Why do they follow Malachi Black? What are they following him to do? What is the mission statement of the House of the Knights of the Kings of the Black Hole? Who wronged them in the past? How are they hurt people that are now hurting people? What caused them to turn against society? What is the common goal that bands them together to do what function in wrestling that, you see the questions I've got, Brian?
Oh, yeah.
Now, they talk spooky.
Yes.
Because somebody has sat there and written that down, and it sounds good on paper that it's spooky. Do you understand it when they're speaking it out loud, when they've memorized it, and they don't really mean any of this because they're trying to be spooky?
No, this is terrible. This is terrible. And this is the kind of stuff where you wonder with some of these guys who left WWE if this is why they left. Because Vince wouldn't let them do this kind of stuff.
And in that case, I'm on Vince's side.
Yeah, me too. This is terrible stuff. I don't need spookiness in AEW. We just talked about the fucking Punk MJF segment and the tone of that. And later on in the same show is this. 3 guys set up for a pre-tape with special lights and spookiness. Get the hell out of here. And then they said cut, and they all went and sat at catering. It's so stupid, and I just think it's counterproductive to AEW.
Again, that's the thing, is that they don't really mean it. Charlie Manson, he had a fucking patter. He had a rap. He could find those people. You read the books and you could delve into the psychology. He knew how to talk to the disaffected kids that had been spurned by their parents and have set out on the street because they couldn't live under the rules at home because they were being downtrodden and blah, blah, blah. And he was able to pick the weak spots and exploit those and turn the will of these otherwise normal middle-class kids to mayhem and murder and wild sexual orgies because he could psychologically penetrate their fucking weak spots and capitalize on all that. Who's going to follow this fucking guy? He can't even spit Kool-Aid in people's faces right. Anyway, we're back in the back. MJF tells Ward. Now, MJF is still there. He's still wearing the blood-stained shirt where he wiped Punk's blood off his face and wiped it across the picture of Punk on his shirt. And it's great that they're there. It's a fine thing that they're there. But if what happened earlier had really happened, either they would have been arrested or they would have left the building before anybody could do that, or they would have been run off, or something would have happened. But now they're mixing their shit up. MJF is basically tells Wardlow he's so happy with him. If he wins the TV title, he can go ahead and keep it. He doesn't have to give it to MJF. And of course, like you're not going to win it anyway. And Wardlow fires up at him verbally a little bit, and MJF comes and slaps the taste out of Wardlow's mouth. You work for me. You're not a professional wrestler. They're trying to close the loopholes. You're not a professional wrestler. You work for me. You're under contract to me, not AEW. If you don't do what I say, you and your family are going to be out in the street. Well, that's a good deal. I don't have a problem with this angle. I have a problem with it as a follow-up to the amazing angle they just did. And now they're coming back. It's like George Costanza not leaving on the punchline, sticking around to fucking die later with bad material. Why are you pushing it? Let me ask you a question. Somebody's going to say, well, this had to happen before the pay-per-view, before whatever happens with Wardlow. They're going to further it, so this had to be on there, but it couldn't happen before the angle with Punk. Well, okay. In that case, after the angle with Punk on this television show, we shouldn't have seen any of these people again. And then on the pay-per-view, in the locker room, before the match takes place, we go back to get comments from MJF, who's warming up, and there he does the deal with Wardlow and the byplay and the slap and the blah, blah, blah. And then they go out and have the match, and whether anything happens in the match that connects to that or not, then back next week on TV, they show, well, folks, MJF and Punk fought on the pay-per-view, but before that match took place, some very interesting things occurred between Wardlow and MJF. And you show that on TV. Now everybody's seen everything in its proper order. You saw this angle on television. You saw on the pay-per-view the slap promo with Wardlow and MJF, and then MJF and Punk and whatever they're going to do. And for anybody that missed that, we're going to catch them up with it on TV next week. Just spread the shit out a little bit. Any other thoughts before I go to our main event?
No, they've been teasing MJF Wardlow for
2 years.
For 2 years. It definitely feels like it's getting close to the payoff. I'm guessing he's going to have to go through Spears to get to MJF, but it seems like we're getting close to the end of Punk MJF. I don't know if they're going to go to a third match or not.
I'm telling you, God damn it, they should. MJF ought to win the first one and the second one, and then Punk win the third one.
Let me ask you this. In a perfect world, and obviously Tony Khan's formatting is not a perfect world, but is this, in your eyes, good for the go-home show? Or would you rather there be one more promo before the go-home show? On the go-home show, I should say.
No, this was good for this spot because it's fresh in people's minds, and now, boy, nobody has destroyed CM Punk like that in a long fucking time. And and there's nothing else you can say after this. Punk's strong point is not doing the "I'm going to get revenge on you, motherfucker" promo. You know, if this was Jerry Lawler in the Memphis days, if this had happened to him, yeah, put Lawler out there for 3 minutes, sell us some fucking tickets. But I think this spoke for itself, and I don't think you need any more. And I think either side MJF's made his point, and everybody knows what Punk wants to do. I don't think that even Punk could tell people what he wants to do any more than what they're hearing in their heads anyway. So I think this was a good, to me, it's always best to leave the issue with the guy on top that people take as the underdog or the lesser name. In other words, Punk's a big star. MJF needed heat on him going into it. If MJF was a bigger star than Punk, then maybe they should have done this last week, and then Punk had a chance to state his case, cut his promo, or even try to get even just to show he wasn't down and out of it. You see what I'm saying? Whoever in the fans' eyes, most of the time, not always, but to me, whoever the lesser guy is in the fans' eyes should get the last word before the match that they have to pay to see. Or if both guys are even, Austin and Rock, then go with the heel getting heat at the right before the go home. That's just kind of what I always try to do. And it doesn't always work out that way, but it doesn't always need to be that. But if you're trying to really have a grudge match, a hot angle, and you go into it with the heel having gotten heat, and you can go back and forth. The heel pisses on a guy's leg initially to start it. And then the babyface does something to make the heel look foolish or make the fans will laugh at him, embarrasses him. And then the heel comes back and does some goddamn violent mayhem or destroys some of the babyface's property or whatever the fuck. And then maybe you have a goddamn promo beforehand. But, you know, you can go back and forth and keep it fresh with, well, we ain't even yet, motherfucker. But you can't. What AEW has done a lot in the past, remember we've talked about this, is they get heat on a guy and then they blow it all off on free television and then have the match. Remember the one time Jericho had a match with Jericho after Jericho had a match with Jericho. Well, that probably would draw if Jericho could referee it too. He'd love it. But
sounds like his dream.
Yeah, his dream match. MJF had a match with Jericho where it was supposed to be a hot grudge match after Jericho had flushed his fucking head in the toilet. That ain't a grudge match. It's over by that point. So anyway, that's my rule of thumb, is that there is no rule of thumb except I like to give the heel the heat going in, or the lesser name should have the advantage going into the thing.
All right.
But speaking of lesser names, we will come to our main event of the evening, and this won't take long, folks. I said Adam Page versus Adam Cole for the world title, the AEW World Championship. And we've been talking for weeks about, does anybody, even Adam Page, believe that he's really the world champion? Because he sounds like he's trying to talk himself into it. This ass-backward, long, drawn-out drama morality play that he did with Twinkle Toes and their tag team, and his circuitous route to the world championship, he finally starts getting his wins after he wins the world title. And then they expect Adam Cole to be a challenger to him when they bring Adam Cole in to great fanfare and then spend the next has it been 4 to 6 weeks now, beating Adam Cole with underneath talent and involving him with job guys. They reunite the Undisputed Era and have him working with the Puddin' Gang. Adam Cole, his highest profile match has been being beaten by the company mascot with an actual hug. A fake hug. Not even a hug that he couldn't get out of, but an obviously fake hug. And now they expect Cole and Page to draw as a world title match. So, they have a 6-man. And God damn it, can we just get that fucking sock-faced wearing idiot to just say 6-man tag instead of this trios match? This isn't Guadalajara. It's not a trios match. It's a 6-man tag. If you can make it sound any less violent, why don't we call it a romper room match or a tea party match? Jesus Christ. They come up with these fucking phrases, and every time they could make a goddamn shark-infested death pit of razors sound like a box of fluffy ducks. Anyway, so I'm thinking it's Cole and it's Fish and it's O'Reilly against Adam Page, Little Brutus, and another Dork Order fellow. And I'm okay, it's obvious what they're going to do here. They'll try to get some interest in Cole versus Page last minute. Adam Cole will beat the reigning champion, Adam Page, 1, 2, 3, in a 6-man tag here and lend some interest to their match in a couple of days. So I'm not going to watch the Dork Order on purpose or willingly, so I skip to the finish to see them do this. Guess what happened, Brian? Well, you know what happened. You watched it. Adam Cole beat one of the Dork Jobbers. The world champion got kicked. Adam Page got kicked or struck in some fashion and just fell backwards and tagged one of the jobbers and rolled out of the ring. And Adam Cole hit the job guy with 2 or 3 different things and pinned him 1, 2, 3. And it was a 6-man tag. And Adam Cole and the job guy were the only wrestlers on either team that was even in the ring. They were all laying around the ring, staying out of the way until their next part was called for. So, the world champion, I will reiterate, takes a bump and tags out and rolls out on the floor, and he's done from this one shot. He's done for the rest of the match. Adam Cole beats the fucking job guy, which accomplishes nothing. And then the heels start getting heat afterwards. They're all fine now. They jump in the ring now and start getting heat. And Page is fine because he jumps in to try to stop it. And he makes a little comeback, but the heels get him, and the Dork Jobbers are dispersed wherever, and they get duct tape Page to the ropes, his hands spread out. And this is not the Rage in the Cage in Knoxville, where we sent Bob Armstrong to the hospital, where we put him out in the exact same position on the cage, and nobody could get in the locked cage, and there were people trying to climb the cage. And we were fucking knocking him off the goddamn deal, and the bell was ringing, and I'm beating on Bob Armstrong while he's crucified. No, they duct taped Adam Page to the ropes, both hands. Well, the referee stood on the floor and said, "Y'all boys don't do that now." And there was no bell ringing, and there was no security to come out, and there were no baby faces or any friends of the champion that tried to help. And the heels beat up the job guys, forcing Adam Page to... It was like they stole the scene in the John Wayne movie, but they didn't understand why it meant something. When you fucking tie Randy Savage in the ropes and he has to watch while fucking Rick Rude makes out with Miss Elizabeth. Or you fucking tie the babyface in the ropes and you have to watch while the heels beat up his son or his girlfriend. But no, they tape Adam Page to the ropes. They beat 2 of these job guys up that nobody gives a shit about, that's in the Dork Order. You can't even call their fucking name. While Adam Page is immobile and then super kick him a time or two while he's immobile, with no bell ringing and no security and nobody trying to help, and nobody ever did come, at least until my DVR froze, because they always almost run down to the end of the show because they can't manage their time. So a phony sports entertainment style angle on the same show as the textbook definition of how to get interest in a wrestling match that CM Punk and MJF did earlier. And they didn't even bring out the fucking security guards again that we already know are in the building. It's the world, and then it's Bizarro World. You're looking at the moon, and then by the end of the show, they take you around to the dark side. And everybody involved in this one is certainly in the dark.
Well, it's no surprise. Dark Order, Adam Page, Adam Cole, Red Dragon, Young Bucks. As soon as it involves that Young Bucks clique, it's going to be silly. You're going to have to put up with bad acting, and you're going to have to put up with all this. And I have no interest in any of their matches for the pay-per-view.
Show.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem.
They didn't treat the same exact set of circumstances. Well, one of the problems is they had the same exact set of circumstances twice on the show, and this angle did nothing for anything. Nobody gives a fuck about Adam Page versus Adam Cole because of the way they've both been presented, and they give less of a fuck out of it now because this did nothing. What this did do was diminish the good angle with the real main event that was done earlier in the program, and also call people's attention to, well, wait a minute. They had the same set of circumstances an hour ago, and they treated it completely differently. But now they don't do any of those things they did before. It's the same shit happening. Well, this must be phony. You think? Closing thoughts, Brian.
That kind of summed up all my thoughts. I look at MJF and Punk and the tone of it, and I wish that there was a promotion that from the moment the show started until the moment it ended, treated wrestling like that. There's no reason that there can't be. There's no good reason that there shouldn't be, other than you actually need someone to do it. But when you see it on this show and then you see all the other stuff, it stands out even more. Yeah. That's all I want. Give me Mid-South 2022.
And again, that's why I have been uncomplimentary of Tony Khan and completely dismissive of the fucking idiots that he went into business with, because this is what it could have been. And this is what we were promised. But he didn't have the ability to pick the talent roster or the balls to stand up to the ones he did pick or the experience to perpetrate a serious promotion. So instead we get kids playing with kids and the little rich kid playing with his live action figures. And that's why I've been especially offended. If it was somebody else say, oh, we're going to do this sports entertainment like Vince does. Well, I wouldn't give a shit. Because I don't want to see that, and I don't want to see any more of it. But when somebody says, hey, we're going to do a wrestling promotion and sports-based presentation and do something different than all this sports entertainment horse shit, and then that was the problem. And that's, again, as I've said from the start, why I knew that there was no sense being involved in this. Because the people that he picked to go into business with are not capable or talented enough of doing this the proper way. So they have created their own way where they get over, but it makes the wrestling business and everybody else in it look like shit. And that's Twinkle Toes, and more specifically, the Hardley Boys. And I knew they couldn't play it straight, and I knew that this kind of shit would happen. And I've been saying it since the start, since before they went on television. I even said, prove me wrong if you can. And they didn't prove me wrong because they can't. And now that Tony, through serendipitous means, has gone out and actually been able to sign real legitimate talent that are blowing these fucking trampoline cowboys away, it still has to be drugged down because they still have power. He still doesn't realize that they fucking sent him down the wrong path. He still thinks there's something to these clowns, and he still allows them to go out there and muck up a large portion of the show. So That's why I'm offended. It would be the same if I was a musician, a former professional musician, and music, well, I guess it has been really fucking gone to shit over the last number of years. If I'm a former professional musician and somebody with $1 billion says, hey, we're going to bring music back. No more of this rap bullshit. All these fucking clowns making a sound like a cat is being disemboweled in the garage. We're going to play rock and roll music. We're going to have fun. Hey, I'd like to be on board. Oh, but shit, we got Kanye and iced tea and iced coffee and iced crackers and all the rest of the ices, and all the rappers are going to sing these songs. Well, fuck you. Why'd you lead me on? I know what it's going to sound like now. Same thing.